Knicks Nation, welcome back to the Sheer Brilliance podcast. We got a lot to talk about. There's some problems in Gotham right now, and we need to address them real quick. And I keep telling you guys, and I know you don't want to hear me say it, but I told you so, right? I kept telling, no, you can do all you want, but you're going to listen to me. You're going to listen to me tonight, because this video is an emergency video, okay? Tomorrow, it's Thursday right now. Is it Thursday right now? Yeah, it's Thursday right now. Tomorrow is Friday, all right? It's like 1:15, so I'm recording this video. But on Friday or Saturday, July 1st, is the opening of free agency. And there's a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. There are no guarantees. We are not guaranteed to get Jalen Brunson. We already saw that in Houston, we have a problem. Or in Dallas, technically, we have a problem. Because now a dark horse has thrown their hat in the ring. And that dark horse comes from a very dangerous place, the Miami Heat. Now, we're going to get into that, right? But we're going to talk about the first sneaky move that happened, all right? And this is the problem when you put your business out there and you let people know what your interests are. And unfortunately, we may have, forced the hand of our front office to kind of let them know, listen, let us know what you're doing. Because not realizing that when you let us know what you're doing, you're letting the rest of the world know what you're doing. And this is what happened. So not only were we able to make some great moves and maneuver some funds around and let some contracts go to other teams and work our magic as a front office to make sure we're in a financial, fiscally responsible position to be able to make a move if it presented itself, right? Not only were we able to do that, and every team now knew what it is that we were doing. So when New York Knicks fans were befuddled, when we were sitting there looking at the NBA draft and we were flabbergasted, not knowing what was happening. And I stand accused. I'm sitting there looking at the screen like, wait, what? Like, what? What I come to find out is other teams knew exactly what the Knicks were doing. They were getting from under salaries to be able to position themselves to go after a free agent. And more importantly, and this is what we're going to talk about in this video, the Dallas Mavericks knew exactly what the Knicks were doing because they were watching it. They were watching the draft and seeing that they were not getting any new rookie contract salaries. They knew what we were doing and they were nervous. So ultimately, when we made those moves, the reverberating feeling in Dallas Mavericks land was that the New York Knicks are now becoming a threat for Jalen Brunson, right? And when that got out to us Knicks fans, we were just like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. All right, Leon. Okay, Leon, I see you. Okay, Wes. All right, we see. Okay, all right, so maybe now we can relax because we're starting to see your plan. And then as we started to come to that realization, writers and the different scouts and the experts, the insiders, they started dropping jewels, all right? Listen, the New York Knicks are in a great position to get Brunson. And we started getting excited. We started sticking our chest out a little bit. Yeah, we're going to get this player. Well, some of us were. Other players not really pleased with Brunson and the fact that we can get him. We're going to get into that in this video as well. But then ultimately, once again, whether it was Woj or some other insiders, they started putting out a little bit more. Well, the Knicks cleared a lot more money than they should have. We think they're not going to be done. We think they're going for someone else. The Knicks are engaging the San Antonio Spurs in talks for Dejountay Murray. So now we are losing our minds. We are like, we can get Brunson and Murray. Stop playing. I even posted it on Twitter. I was just like, there's going to be a whole lot of SMDs that Knicks fans are going to be posting in people's Reddits and on their, community pages, if we're able to get a backcourt of Brunson and Murray. But two things happened. The first thing happened was the Atlanta Hawks was just like, nah, bruh, hold my beer. So that they made phone calls too. And apparently the Spurs let them know, like, listen, you stand just as good of a chance of scooping in and getting this player as any other team. This is what we're looking for. All right. And also the other thing that happened was the Miami Heat was just like, well, not so fast. It's not like this player is just going to outright sign with the New York Knicks after free agency. Every free agent wants to be courted. So if you're setting up a meeting with the New York Knicks, cool. Congratulations. Round of applause for you. But what we want to let you know, too, is we're interested in bringing you to Miami Beach and interested in you bringing your services to South Beach as well. South Beach, not Miami Beach. All right? So Jalen Brunson was just like, all right, bet. And that's one of the worst things that we could have heard as a franchise, because they say he has 3 meetings set up. He has the meeting with New York, he has the meeting with Miami, and he has the meeting with the Dallas Mavericks. So that leads me to this point. This video is going to cover several items, right? We're going to talk a little bit about Leon Rose versus Pat Riley, okay? And for you younger guys who are new and you're not really familiar with Pat Riley is the Godfather. If we call Leon Rose the Don, right? We call him the Don. You know, I heard this reference. He's the Don. You know, he closes deals. He makes, deals that no one can refuse. If we're calling Leon Rose, then Pat Riley is the Godfather. And if you're too young to know who the Godfather is, you need to look him up, okay? He is where everything started, all right? So there is serious danger in losing Jalen Brunson to the Miami Heat. And I'm going to talk about in this video why it's a possibility Jalen Brunson would choose the Miami Heat over the New York Knicks. But then on the flip side, I'm also talk about what the New York Knicks have done to make sure we're not repeating that, and that the Don is ready, and that he learned from the Godfather, and he learned from those that came before him. The New York Knicks were known for making mistakes in the past, and that's not happening no more. We're ready for you, Godfather, because we anticipated this move, okay? We knew you couldn't hide in your little crevice for too long, but we're ready for you. So we're going to talk about why it's a possibility that Miami is going to scoop Jalen Brunson, but we're also going to talk about why it's more of a possibility that the New York Knicks will jump in and usurp that move and make sure Jalen Brunson comes home to the Big Apple. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. The first, talk Leon versus Riley. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about why Dallas is not in the running. I'm excited to talk about this because if you let Twitter tell it and Knick fans on Twitter tell it, then New York Knicks, once again, is going to pick a free agent who is not a superstar and pay him like a superstar. Once again, the New York Knicks is going to overpay for an undersized point guard who they expect to save the franchise. No, wrong. That is not what we're doing. And for those of you who are just like, I want to bring them in, let's let IQ, y'all need to kill that noise, because Dallas Dallas gambled and they lost. They gambled by not offering this young man a contract, and then he bet on himself, and he had a phenomenal, outstanding run. And now he's looking at them and saying, you didn't believe in me to pay me earlier. So now I'm betting on myself. I bet on myself and I won. So it's time for me to cash out, no discounts. So there's still a possibility when he takes that meeting that if they make him an offer, add 5 years, pay him an X amount of dollars, they still stand a chance of retaining their player. But I'm going to tell you why it's not possible. Because I was able to listen to a couple of videos from reporters in Dallas, listen to their fans and what the temperature was and what the conversation was that they're having in Dallas. And they're not happy. Everybody agrees that Dallas dropped the ball on this one, that the Dallas Mavericks dropped the ball, and they're slandering our names out there. They're calling us, they're slandering our names big time. They're saying that we're tampering. We should be brought up on charges because we got the father, and that's a whole ordeal. They're talking about we're making desperate moves as a desperate franchise, but in the same conversation, in the same tone, they're hurting because they didn't want to lose Brunson. And if you want to see the value of a player, check the team that they play for. They loved Brunson. They really thought Brunson was going to be with Luka for years to come. So the fact that they're waking up and they're seeing that they have the potential to lose him, they are sick. They are literally sick. And I was happy to see that, because it just validated what he would be bringing to us. And it's not just that they loved him as a person. They loved what he brought to the game, his skill set, the moments that he created for that team. But we're going to talk about why Dallas is no longer an option. All right. And then lastly, what we're going to talk about on this video is what I would like to see in terms of free agency. First and foremost, I want to see them secure the bag and sign Jalen Brunson. But is that the only move we're going to make? Is that the only move that I want the team to make? Absolutely not. So I'm just going to very briefly touch upon that as well, who I want to see with the team, and man, how we wrap up this free agency period. All right. So let's get right back into it. I'm going to cover these three things. We're going to talk about Leon versus Pat Riley. We're going to talk about why Dallas is no longer an option. Then we're going to talk about who I want to see come to the New York Knicks in addition to Jalen Brunson for free agency. Okay. But before we get into that, please do me a favor. Go down, like this video real quick before we get started, subscribe, and enjoy this video. So I'm going to get right into it. Leon Rose versus Pat Riley. Okay. Now, once again, I'm talking to you newbies. Those of you who are new, who may not have been alive for the 90s Knicks run, or you may have been a little baby, and somebody put orange and blue on you, and you were indoctrinated at that time. I want to talk to you about who Pat Riley is. Okay. Once again, Pat Riley came to the New York Knicks when we were in flux. We had a superstar at center and Patrick Ewing, and we had some good players, some decent players, but he came in, and when he came in, he had a list of players that he wanted to recruit. All right. The New York Knicks made it happen. They pulled in the players that he wanted. He, in a short period of time, was able to turn everything around. And when you turn the New York Knicks around and you have us winning, then you galvanize the city. You energize the city. And we love them for it. So Pat Riley is an absolute legend. For the past few years, he's been a legend in the GM's office. But as a coach, he is an absolute legend. Former coach of the Los Angeles Lakers as well. But once again, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, when it came time for his contract to be up, the New York Knicks didn't want to pay him. They didn't want to pay him. James Dolan was just like, no, that's too much power. You're already walking around here in $1,000 suits thinking you are the real Godfather. Nah, we ain't going to give you that much power because I think you might lose your mind. So Pat Riley picked up and packed his bags and he left. And Miami gave him exactly what the New York Knicks wouldn't give him. One thing we cannot do is repeat that mistake. The biggest challenge and the biggest problem that we have is Pat Riley will have an opportunity to sit down with Jalen Brunson and nobody is going to be around. And he's going to have an opportunity to talk to Jalen Brunson and tell him why he should come to Miami. And I'm scared. Okay? I'm scared because just like the cover of this video, Pat Riley is the Godfather. And what I mean by the Godfather is he's charismatic. He knows exactly what to say. He has a proven track record. Look at Miami. Look at the team. Look at the success. Look at the championships. I was able to put that together. Not only that, but look, you in Miami Beach. You right here off the beach. It's no state tax. What else can I offer you? This is an offer that you can't refuse. That's what he's going. That's going to be part of his sell. But for you youngins, once again, and I keep saying these youngins because this is information that you may not know, there is a deeper connection that Jalen Brunson has with the Miami Heat. Now, Brunson's father, his dad, is Rick Brunson. And the New York Knicks did a phenomenal job. They made a great chess move in being able to hire Rick Brunson and hire him as an assistant coach for the New York Knicks. But prior to Rick Brunson being hired by the New York Knicks, he was drafted by Pat Riley for the New York Knicks. So Pat Riley, the president of Miami Heat basketball, the one that he's going to sit down and meet with during the free agency period, he already knows Jalen Brunson because he probably was around when Jalen Brunson was born. Okay? When Jalen Brunson was a kid, Pat Riley was his dad's boss because he played for the New York Knicks. So that is a connection that we could say is similar to the connection that we have with Jalen Brunson in New York. There's a tie that's there. There's a bloodline, there's a lineage that's there that we can lean on and say, you know what, Dallas, they may have treated you well and this place can treat you well, but this is home. This is home. Okay? As far as we know, he probably calls Pat Riley Uncle Pat because literally as a toddler and as a baby, he probably was running around while Rick Brunson was playing basketball. So we have to be concerned because Pat Riley is going to remind you. He's going to pull out all the stops. All right? So that's one thing that we really have to be concerned about. In addition to being concerned about that, the Miami Heat is simply a better team. They have better talent. They can offer Jimmy Butler. They can offer Duncan Robinson. All of those players that they can say Adebayo, they can point at those players and say, all right, this is the team that we want you to come in and lead this offense. You see how far we've gone in the playoffs. You're the missing link. You're it. You want to make a splash? Come to Miami. We also have a stage because we have a history of winning titles and we could win one with you. We have to be concerned. Pat Riley is the closer. Pat Riley is Mariano Rivera. Pat Riley is the current New York Yankees. Never out of the game. Never out of the game. And the win is never far away. All it takes is a hit here, a single there, a double there, and a chance to knock it out of the park. And Pat Riley is Aaron Judge. So we have to be concerned. It's not a foregone conclusion that Jalen Brunson is a New York Knick. So we can't get ahead of ourselves. That's exactly what I said in my video that says the setup. I try to forewarn everybody, listen, until ink is dry on paper, we can't assume nothing. It's a very real possibility that we could strike out in this free agency period. Very real possibility. So we can't assume nothing. But if you want to know why the Miami Heat as a dark horse is a dangerous threat to the New York Knicks, that's why. They have Pat Riley. Okay? So we should be concerned, but the one thing that I think we have in our favor, actually it's a few things, all right? The old New York Knicks should be really shaking in their boots. The old New York Knicks. Not these new New York Knicks. And what do you mean by that, Shia? Like, well, what are you talking about? I'm talking about our front office. It's different. Now, even prior to, even with the draft and leading up to the draft and the end of the season, there was a lot of question marks around in the front office, right? We know that the moves that they were making were sound, they were calculated, they were strategic. We know that. And we were reminded of that by Leon in his statement. We were reminded of that. He reminded us, like, yo, chill out. All right. But what we were able to see is from the moment Leon Rose got hired, he started putting together his team. And it was funny because he would make little moves that were unorthodox. And some people will sit there and talk about Leon Rose is not a basketball mind. He's an agent. We really haven't hired anybody that's specific to this role and an expert doing what it is that's supposed to be done in this role. But he took a unique approach. And one of the first moves that he made was he went out and hired away from the Cleveland Cavaliers, the cap god. Okay? And not cap like capping. I'm talking about the cap, like the salary cap god. And they call him that for a reason. Because he was one of the people that was able to mastermind bringing LeBron James back to Cleveland, being able to secure Kevin Love to join Kyrie Irving, and then to fill in players around him. And all of that took cap mastery, salary cap mastery. And Brock Aller was able to do it. So when Leon Rose came to the New York Knicks, one of the moves that went under the radar by a lot of people, but not by Knicks fans, we noticed it, was him bringing in Brock Aller. And that's a difference. That's a difference maker. And how that's important in terms of us being new Knicks and not the old Knicks is because I got flashbacks to the decision. You remember the decision? You remember back when LeBron James had said, I'm going to take my services to South Beach. F you, LeBron James. Yo, when he said that BS and he had that BS show him the decision, afterwards, he was the villain. And then he started going this little on this little interview tour, trying to explain some of his reasons for choosing the Miami Heat, right? And of course, he takes every opportunity to be able to talk about what the Knicks didn't do or what they did do, okay? But part of that process was, he said, when I went to visit with Miami, they were already prepared with how they were going to be able to make room for me financially. I'm sorry, not Miami. We're going to get back to that. But Cleveland, when it was time to go back to Cleveland, it was only possible for him to return to Cleveland if the salaries could be moved around and adjusted to make room for himself, to make room to be able to take care of, secure Kevin Love as a player, and to make sure that it didn't interfere with the money that Kyrie was getting. And on the flip side, when he made the decision to go to Miami, the same thing applied. So the reason he didn't come to New York at that time, the reason he went to Miami, is because he said during their pitch, during their presentation on free agency, they were already prepared with the numbers about how they was going to make it work, so that not only could he join Dwayne Wade in Miami, but Chris Bosh could join him as well. And part of that presentation was a proposal. And this is, once again, what I'm telling you. He's like the Godfather. When he says, listen, if you want to be great, every person who is great needs to sacrifice. So I'm asking you, do you want to be great? Do you want to be amongst the greats? And if you do, you have to take less money. And he sold LeBron on that. So LeBron took less money. Dwayne Wade took less money. And Chris Bosh, I think, got the full money. But the next go around, when the re-up, they made sure that those brothers got paid what they were worth. The Knicks weren't ready for that. We could only afford to sign one player and another star at a little bit less. And LeBron was just like, I'm not coming to New York only by myself. All right? Now, another ace in the hole that Miami had at that time was they had Dwayne Wade. And Dwayne Wade was best friends with LeBron. So, you know, nobody talked about that tampering. Everybody did. I'm not going to lie. Everybody did talk about that as well. That it was easy, that Pat Riley didn't really have to do any work because Dwayne Wade already knew they were trying to play together in Miami. So he was able to relate that message to the president, and there was no proof that it was tampering. All right? So that's one thing. We have a little bit of an inside track for the New York Knicks because we went out and hired the father. So I'm not saying we're tampering. We are not tampering. We are a professional organization. We don't do that. NBA, if you're watching my video, we don't do that in the New York Knicks organization. But there's some people accusing us of being in a position where we could if we wanted to, because we have the dad who will be working with us, who is the father of the son who we're trying to get. And if we just so happen to hear the dad tell us that this is what the son may or may not do, then we might slightly adjust what it is that we're doing to make sure that we get him. Okay? But that's neither here nor there. The New York Knicks of old fumbled the ball when it came to players like LeBron James. The New York Knicks of old fumbled the ball when it came to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Okay? Yeah, Kevin Durant even said, they wouldn't even offer me the max because they weren't even confident that I would fully recover. They don't know what the new NBA player is looking for. They had Fat Joe come in, and they had the guy from the Sopranos movie come in and say, we're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. You need to come to New York, as if that would impress the new players. New players ain't interested in that. They want to know, they want to talk basketball, and nobody was talking basketball with them. So I'm here to tell you this. Yesterday's Knicks are not today's Knicks. Okay? Fat Joe, shout out to Fat Joe. I just mentioned you twice. Yesterday's Knicks are not today's Knicks. They're not. Okay? They went out and got the cap guard. So any other discussion about how that number will work and whether or not you'll get your money, we're going to have somebody in the room to talk to you about that. You're going to get your money. Okay? And we're going to get you some players to play with you so that we can take it to the next level. So that's done. Okay? When it comes to what does today's players want to see? What do they want to hear when a pitch is made? What does the presentation entail when the player walks into the room with his representation, with his wife, with his family, and they sit down in that room and they say, listen, you got 30 minutes. Why should I come to New York? Why you? Not only do we have Worldwide West sitting in a room who may already have an established relationship with that player, and that player now sees the benefits of being in New York directly from Worldwide West, and how maybe their business ventures and their interests can thrive if they're in New York. Maybe if they want to take their career in a certain direction, and after they retire, they can continue their next phase of life in this city. Worldwide West can show them how they make that happen. Not only is he tied in with basketball, but he's tied in with entertainment and tied in with different players and all of these connections. He can show you how to network and leverage your business after the game of basketball while you're playing the game of basketball. Yesterday's Knicks are not today's Knicks. Then you have Miami. Then you have Leon Rose in the room. So now the Don stands up, and the Don tells them, listen, who else in the league can tell you what a player is looking for and what's best for a player than the man who's represented the top players in this league? So they can tell you, I have years of experience talking to players about what they want to do in terms of their investments, in terms of their team, in terms of their endorsement deals, in terms of how playing here and this team in this market can help benefit you and help you skyrocket towards your goals as an NBA player. Who better to tell a player that than a player who has been one of the most powerful player representatives in NBA history? But not only that, Leon Rose, prior to being one of the most powerful NBA agents, he was a powerful attorney. So not only can he really translate what their contracts mean to those players, they know legally he knows what he's talking about. So not only do you have a team president, but you have a person that serves as counsel for you in the organization. Yesterday's Knicks are not today's Knicks. When Leon Rose came on, he made sure he put around him all the pieces in place for moments like this, because he listened to the players. Every year, free agency came and went, and no major free agents came to New York. He listened to what those players were saying. When they laughed at Donnie Walsh being rolled in on a wheelchair, knowing that they weren't laughing at him directly, but they was just saying, like, listen, that's not, he just got out of surgery on his hip. He came in just in time for the LeBron James pitch. And just the optics of that moment didn't say strong organization. It didn't say, thriving and healthy organization. Because when they rolled him in the wheelchair, although he was a sage, sound mind, a basketball operations man, he didn't represent, the optics didn't represent strength. It didn't represent vibrant health, excitement about New York. The picture didn't match. Well, the picture matches now. So when they walk into that room, they're going to walk into that room prepared. We could rest assured for that. We could rest assured of that. So that's what I really wanted to point out, talking about how different we are and what it is as an organization. The New York Knicks are now in a better position to offer than what Miami is going to be offering, and that we're in a better position to make that move and secure the player that we want with this front office. There's a couple of other things that I wanted to point out. So not only do we have the collective thought group that's going to walk into that space, whether it's Brock Aller, whether it's Worldwide West, Leon Rose, Scott Perry, we're ready. And everybody, I'm sure, is going to have an assignment. Everybody, I'm sure, is going to have a piece to offer in terms of the pitch to Jalen Brunson or whoever is the free agent that we're trying to get to come to New York. But what I love is that part of what should be their presentation is we want players who want to be here. And this didn't start just with Leon coming on 2 years ago. This actually started 3 years ago. And I mentioned this in the previous video. It started with Kristaps Porzingis. All right. So the moment Kristaps Porzingis walked into that room with Scott Perry and Steve Mills, and he was just like, listen, I want to request a trade. I don't want to play here. I don't plan on re-signing. And when he left out and they traded him within 6 minutes, Steve Mills, as is, the MO of MSG, wanted to get ahead of it, get ahead of the news. So I remember him being interviewed by Tina, our sideline reporter in MSG. And one of the first things he said, he looked into the camera and he said, we want players who want to play here. We want players who want to be here in New York. Players who can handle being here in New York. There's no longer going to be a time where we pursue players who do not want to play here. Those days are over. And that started 3 years ago. And what I'm happy to see is that Leon Rose continued that until this day. And actually, more than Leon Rose, y'all need to start giving credit to James Dolan, because James Dolan hired Leon Rose. And Leon Rose has that direct tie to New York as well. Okay? Same thing applies with Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau has that tie to New York. And then you went out and you draft players such as Obi Toppin. You could bring in a player such as Taj, who's Fort Greene, Brooklyn. When you start bringing in players who have pride in their city, proud to represent their city, and they start crying when they have the orange and blue across their chest, that's a start. Have young players who care about resurrecting the franchise from the ashes. And not only that, but enjoy playing in front of the crowd, engages with the crowd, is not intimidated by the crowd. It's not intimidated by the fans. It's not intimidated by that pressure. RJ Barrett, what pressure? No, that ain't pressure. That's fun. Yo, he knew what he was saying. He knew the message that he was putting out there. He's letting you know, like, listen, I don't care. It's crazy. They're going to love you when you up. They're going to get on you when you down. But yo, those are our fans. But it takes players who understand what it means to be from New York. If you're not from New York and you're playing here for the first time, there was a recent interview, and I posted it on Twitter as well, with Eddie Curry. And I was happy to see, Eddie Curry, because, there was good times with Eddie Curry. But for the most time, it was a lot of losing. But he had moments. But in his interview, he was talking to the interviewer, and he said, New York fans don't play that ish. That town is serious. They will love you hard. But listen, if they hate you, like if you're not doing what you need to do, they will hate you hard just as much. And that was it for me. That was a tip of the cap, because he was saying, like, your Knicks fans are fair. You need to go, if you agree to sign in New York, you ain't just going to sign and collect a check. Knicks fans are going to hold you accountable, or they're going to love you and really support you unconditionally like that when you're doing what you need to do. So needless to say, it's important that you bring in players who want to be here. And that's one of the main pitches that we can make to Jalen Brunson. This is your home, bro. We've seen your effort in the playoffs. We've seen you play at the highest level, side by side with the competing MVP candidate, who is a ball-dominant basketball player, and you held your own. We've seen you step in and carry that franchise on your back when he went down in the playoffs, and then up your scoring average up to about 26 points per game, 21 points per game. I have to go back and look. I apologize if I'm throwing out wrong stats. But you carried that offense, and you won games while he was injured. So you have an opportunity to push the team further in the playoffs. You did that. So we know you have the mettle to be able to play on the biggest stage with the heaviest jersey in the NBA. We know you have that. But we also know it might be new. And what we're telling you sounds heavy. But the truth of the matter is we still plan on trying to get you help. You don't have to carry this by yourself. We don't want you to be the savior, but we want you to be that part that we need so that we can continue to fill in the gaps that we have. We need you as the point guard of the New York Knicks. Now, it's not going to be easy. You've seen TV. You know the pressure. You grew up here. Your dad played here. So you heard about the pressure all your life, which is why you play the way you play now. But I'm going to tell you this much. You're in a unique position that not a lot of other people are in, because you're familiar with the city. You're familiar with the team and what comes with it. But when that pressure gets so high and you really feel as if, you're starting to wilt just a little bit, you'll have your dad on the coaching staff. Who else better to talk basketball and navigating the game than a veteran who's been through it before, who happens to be your father? This is what the New York Knicks organization can offer you. Come be the next starting point guard for the New York Knicks and help do what a lot of people failed to do before you. That is our sell. Yesterday's Knicks are not today's Knicks. Today's Knicks, thanks to the front office, are equipped to get those players that we've lost in the past. If they're free agents, and if they have a choice. Not much we can do about players who were traded and other organizations deciding where they go. But for those players who have a choice, we're in better position today to help them make the right choice and to don the blue and orange. That's what we can do. That's the difference with today's Knicks. Okay? So that's Leon versus the Godfather, Pat Riley. And that's how the Knicks are in a better position, no matter how much pressure the Heat is putting on us, that we can come out with the player that we have at the top of our priority list. All right? Now, what I wanted to talk about also is, before I get to why Dallas is no longer a player in the Jalen Brunson sweepstakes, one person who I forgot who's going to be in the room is Steve Stout. And I want to go back and touch on Steve Stout just a little bit and his importance, because that can't be understated. All right? Something that was huge. I talked a little bit about Donnie Walsh and him being kind of wheeled into the room, and I don't want to make light of that. That's something that he had no control over. He wanted to make sure he was there as president of basketball operations, or the GM. I'm not sure what his role was. But in free agency, he has to be there. So he made sure he was there no matter what. But LeBron brought it up, and he brought up how the optics looked. You know what I mean? And when he went to Miami, Pat Riley, he has the slick hair back. He put 4 rings on the table. I get these for you. And he had the whole swagger and the aura. That's what Pat Riley brings into a room. He walks into the room, he commands it. Okay? But the perception, when Kevin Durant said Knicks ain't cool no more, Knick fans, we can get a little bit, moody or in our feelings about that. But he was right. He was just saying what everybody is saying. He's talking to players or whatever have you. Like, they were like, what? You're synonymous with losing. We don't remember those 90s. We weren't even born. What we remember is you guys being a laughingstock. What we remember is Stephen A. Smith and Spike Lee, sitting on their knees praying for the Knicks to have godly intervention for their fortunes. That is our image right now. So additionally, what Leon did was he went out and he hired Steve Stout to come back in and lead a rebrand of the New York Knicks. All right. So many of you just like, all right, he's stealing money, because we haven't seen Steve Stout in no way, shape, or form. But it's little things that I've seen Steve Stout do that has really impacted our brand. First and foremost, one of the first things that I know he did when he came in, he told James Dolan, you need to disappear, bro. You got to disappear. You got to lay low. You can come to games, but stay away from the microphone. Stay away from interviews. You need to lay low, because you are killing your brand. One of the first things you realize is you don't hear a peep out of James Dolan, who is the New York Knicks owner, for those of you who may not know. Secondly, one of the things that I noticed during the past 2 seasons is the change in arena music while the New York Knicks are playing. Very slight. I'm watching and I'm listening, and I'm like, yo, okay. Because before it used to be the same old, music, same old artists playing songs, whatever have you. I remember when Barclays opened up and Stephen A. Smith went to his new home over there, because he talks more about Barclays and spends more time over there than he does in MSG. But he started talking about, he was just like, man, their music is fresh. And arenas are going to play the music that are synonymous with their city or whatever have you. So they play a lot of Jay-Z over in Brooklyn because of Barclays and being in Brooklyn. And they play a lot of Fab and things that are Brooklyn connected. Man, but I started hearing, DMX, and it kind of coincided when DMX just passed. So a lot of his classes were being played. And I was just like, yo, that feels good. Some of the music, and I know y'all know, because y'all pick up on the little things as well. The music was newer, and they were playing some of the newer artists, in the arenas. So I was just like, yo, that's dope. So the smallest things, such as the music, the in-game experience, the jerseys. That's one of the things with Steve Stout. Like, what is the look of the jerseys? How many different options you have available? Varieties of jerseys. Is it fresh? Is it connected to the street? In the culture of New York. Does it feel like New York? Does it say New York? Who are some of the guests that we bring in, and are we bringing back some of the past, legends and having them stand up? Are we making sure we bring in celebrities that are current? So Steve Stout has been working his tail off behind the scenes. So I wanted to kind of go back and just say, yesterday's Knicks are not today's Knicks. So before, we used to be shaking in our boots when a Miami would come out of nowhere and Pat Riley would be like, oh, I'm interested, because we know Pat Riley gets what he wants. Almost like every player who goes into the door with negotiations at Miami don't come out unless they got a contract signed. And in years past, I would have been intimidated by that. But not this year, not now. It's different. And part of why it's different is because many of the people who are in our front office came in under Pat Riley. So they took notes and they paid attention. And they have applied it to our New York Knicks. Simple. And for that, they should be applauded. Good job, gentlemen. So as I come up onto the the end of this video, there's only two other areas that I want to cover. I want to cover why Dallas eliminated themselves as realistic competitors in the Jalen Brunson sweepstakes. Now, one of the first things that I did was I went back, because everybody knows that I made a couple of videos about Jaden Ivey, right? I work at Purdue, I'm about to head out now. But I was able to see this young man play. Phenomenal young man, character outstanding. Really upset when he went to Detroit. I'm still tight about that. But I was looking at, okay, so since we don't have the young buck, who in free agency can we go after? So the options were either Brunson or Dejountay Murray, or we just stick with our guns and go with IQ and let him get another full year immersed as the point guard and let him develop. So I was looking at tape of all of them, and it was IQ. I kept seeing, I was just like, all right, so IQ is 6'3". IQ is about 6'3". And his game, if I was to scout his game and give a brief strengths and weaknesses, I'd say he doesn't penetrate the basketball. Occasionally he'll get a play where he penetrates and he'll hit the layup, but he doesn't penetrate and get all the way to the rack often. What he will do is he'll shoot that floater. So that gives him his mid-range shots. So he's good with the floater, and he will he'll shoot it from distance on you. So he is an absolute threat because he's a game changer. He can hit from limitless range on you. So he's a three-point shooter. He has a float game, that's unique to him in this league. He plays fast, so he absolutely does play fast with his head up, and he has a passion for the game, and he is a connector, So those are the things that I think are strengths for him. The weaknesses, as I mentioned, that stood out to me is, and also he has long arms and he gets in passing lanes, so he can be disruptive defensively, and he does have moments more than not where he does play defense. The other side of it is he probably can improve just all 48 minutes locking in on the defensive end. That's one thing. He absolutely has to get to the basket. He doesn't have an ability to slash and penetrate like the other point guards do, So that's the hang up with Emmanuel Quickley. And His handle could be a little bit tighter. He doesn't have better handles than Dejountay Murray or um, Jalen Brunson. All right. Now, when I was looking at Dejountay Murray, I was saying he was the prize. So Atlanta got a player. I think they're going to run into issues because I'm curious to see what that looks like, play style, with those two players in the backcourt. I know he'll cover for a lot of deficiencies that Trey has in the backcourt, but both of them are ball dominant. So I'm curious to see what that looks like, But that's not our problem. That's not our team. But Dejountay Murray, when I was looking at him, I was just like, damn, he's a big guard. So he's 6'4". He has long arms. He's super athletic. He's bouncy. His three-point shooting is not regular. He doesn't shoot as many three-pointers as the guards on our team themselves, but he could get to the basket with ease. He can slash and get to the basket effortlessly. And he plays defense. So he's a two-way player, and he gets in passing lanes. He blocks shots. He harasses players. He picks pockets. He gets steals. So that's the type of player I was just like, man, would be perfect in a New York Knicks uniform if we would be able to secure that. So I know we tried our best to pull that off. And I think both San Antonio and Atlanta were like, aha, laughing at us. So it's all good. We're going to let that rock. But what that did was it made me go back and look at video of Brunson a little bit more. And everything that I was hoping that we would get with Dejountay Murray, I see with Brunson, with the exception of two things. First, he can't help it, but he's 6'1". So he's an undersized guard. And secondly, defensively, that may cause him to be a liability in some spots because of his height. But there are a couple of things that absolutely stood out about Jalen Brunson and his game. First and foremost, he's built for New York. If you were able to see and watch the playoffs last year, you see him elevate his game. I know I mentioned that a little bit earlier. He's really built for New York. And to be a player who has the confidence to be able to play his level of game that was game-changing in the regular season and in the playoffs next to an MVP otherworldly candidate such as Luka Doncic, that is commendable. That says to me that you have the ability to play next to a ball-dominant player. And we know that we have those, whether it's R.J. Barrett or whether it's Julius Randle. We have those type of players on the team. So he has shown the ability to play alongside those type of players and thrive and then make the players around him better. So that is something that's going to absolutely serve him well in New York. But also next, this man has 1,000 moves. I'm watching his run. I'm watching his highlight. And he, at 6'1", can be posting up another point guard. He'll hit him with the head fake, do the up and under, scoop off the high part of the backboard. He's dribbling. He can penetrate and get into the lane and get to the basket with ease at 6'1". He plays the passing lane, so he looks for off passes. His speed makes up and kills mistakes for other teams. So all of these things I'm looking and I'm surprised by, his ability to penetrate, his ability to make big shots. He, like I mentioned, he had 1,000 moves and he's a big game player. But something else that I saw while watching highlights in Dallas after some of their wins, and I was listening to some of their talk show hosts when they were talking about him possibly leaving Dallas, right? They said in an interview he had mentioned, he said he believes that he can take his game to another level. He believes that he could take his game to another level. He said specifically he felt as if he had to put a ceiling on his game because Luka was so ball dominant. That if he ever had an opportunity to be the main person with the ball in his hand the majority of the time, that he can take his game to another level. That is why we need to bring him to New York. Because we're bringing him to New York with the expectation of him playing somewhere close to the level he's playing in Dallas. But it'll make the money all worthwhile if he's able to get to the level he believes he can be at. That's what makes this an important signing. So, Knick fans, we have to pay close attention. You know, we have to back off our front office and let them do their job. You know, like all year, you know, we're hoping that they're doing the work, whether it's going to other teams and scouting, play, you know, doing what it is that they need to do. But this is where they earn their money. So we got to let them work and got to be supportive. So we do our part, get on Twitter and support. But we can't poo-poo the moves that are being made because we don't know the end game. And we almost got caught up in that in the draft, you know, period where we didn't know what they were doing, you know, and we was letting the outside media influence how we felt because they was laughing and joking with us. All right. Let's let this front office work. Okay. And lastly, as I tie up this video, I just want to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Okay. And I'm going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks while simultaneously talking a little bit about what I've been seeing on Twitter. All right. So what I've been seeing on Twitter is when we started to get a clearer picture about him coming to New York, right? Or the possibility of him signing with New York being high. You're going to always have those fans who were just like, I didn't want him. I don't think he's good. Why are we going to pay him like a superstar and he's not a superstar? Same old Knicks, all of this. And the first thing I did was I went to all of the Dallas fan boards. I wanted to see what their fans thought about him, you know, and if we're overvaluing something they don't value. You know, he's about to leave them. How do they feel about it? Yo, I got news for you, Knick fans. Yo, they are sick. They are sick. They are cursing our names. They're saying that we are tampering, that we're desperate. We're a desperate franchise doing desperate things. You know, for the most part, there's this one podcast that I was watching where one guy was just like, I know I'm sounding bitter, but it's because I love this player. You know, I love what he brought. I love seeing him grow. He grew with us. And we see that he was able to do what Kristaps wasn't able to do. Stand side by side with Luka. And Luka was able to rely on him to score, to change the game, to carry the game when Luka didn't necessarily have it or if he was injured. Like, they loved Jalen Brunson. And they are 100% aggravated with the organization that the organization played with him. Now, ultimately, what's being reported is that the Dallas Mavericks had 2 opportunities to sign Jalen Brunson to an extension. Actually, they had 3. So they had before the season, last season, and then they had at the January deadline to be able to offer him an extension. And for the most part, he was like, what do y'all want to do? So they was just like, well, we want to wait, you know, to the end of the season. So basically the mentality he had was, all right, you know, okay, so we're going to wait. But I'm not giving no hometown discount. That's what he got. His dad said, we're not giving a hometown discount. So he could have been talking to the Knicks and he could have been talking to Dallas. Just because you drafted me don't mean you're going to get a discount for me to stay. And Knicks, if you want me, and just because I'm from here doesn't mean you're going to get a discount. You know, whoever it is, I'm about to put in my all. You're going to pay me for what it is I'm worth. And he balled out. So Dallas fans are like heated at the general manager and the owner of the team. Like, yo, why would you let him walk? And that's the thing. Because they were so confident that they were going to re-sign him, or they didn't know that he was going to do what he was going to do. You know, it was just like, we're not going to sign and trade for him. So they waited until now where he's a free agent, and they're hoping that a situation turns out where he could work out a sign and trade so they at least get something back for him. That's another reason that the Dallas fans are so upset at the Mavericks, because they're like, yo, one of our second best player on a Western Conference team, you're letting walk for nothing, for zilch. So if nothing else but for fun, I would encourage you all as Knicks fans to go find one of the Dallas Mavericks community pages, go find their podcast. They are going through it right now. And when it came to light that the Miami Heat may be in the running and they may get them as well, oh, they were rejoicing. It was just like, yeah, as long as he don't go to New York, as long as he don't go to New York. So we have another fan base who is hating on us because we may be able to get that point guard that they value so high. So before we put down this player, we have a chance of getting and underestimating his value. And many other fans were saying that they're in our community pages. They're secret shopping on our Twitter, and they're seeing what we're saying about him. So they're laughing at us like, yo, we know they don't know basketball because they haven't watched him play. So they're laughing because we're crapping on this player. We don't even got him yet. And they're like, yo, they don't know basketball. Once they see him play, they're going to love him. That's what I've seen from a couple of Dallas fans who are speaking to their podcast and reporting back. It was just like, listen, we hope he goes somewhere else, but once the New York Knicks fans see him play, they're going to fall in love with him. So let's stop critiquing people before we get them in a uniform and see them play. Let's give people a shot. First and foremost, we need a point guard. So back up, bro. Just let them work. Let's get a point guard. If we secure him as a point guard, he's going to be our best point guard since old-ass Jason Kidd. I mean, like a game-changing, I'm going to control where you need to be. I'm going to get to where we need. Jason Kidd. Probably the only point guard that has the ability to penetrate since Stephon Marbury. So, we got to relax, bro. We got to relax. But I'm telling you, he's a proven winner. Not only did he carry the Mavericks with Luka when Luka was injured, he was a winner at Villanova. Shout out to Jay Wright. I know Jay Wright from my alma mater, it's Hofstra University. So he was a winner at Villanova. His efficiency, his game improved every year he's been in the league. He's been in the league for about 6 years. And simply securing Jalen Brunson would be a step in the right direction because he will meet our youth timeline. His role is better in New York than it is in Dallas. He'll get the money he wants and he'll be with family. So those are things that I think really places us in a great position to be able to secure him as the next point guard for the New York Knicks. And with that, I'll start to wrap it up. Knicks fans, take out your lucky, rabbit's foot. We got to tone it down, because we know he's on social media as well, just kind of listening to what the vibe is as well. And we just want to make sure we support our squad as they make these moves, man. But it's dangerous. Miami Heat ain't no joke. And Pat Riley, if he gets you into a room, his track record is high. He's not going to let people walk away without a signed contract. So I believe in our squad. I think we can do great things. I do believe we will secure Jalen Brunson as our next point guard. Question is, who else are we going to get in free agency? And the only name that comes to my mind is, it's a long shot, but Zach LaVine. I'm going to just leave it there. I'm not going to go into it. It's a long shot. I know Chicago Bulls fans. I'm in Indiana right now. I'm not too far from Chicago. So there's a lot of cats out here talking about I'm crazy. And that the word on the street is that he's going to re-sign with Chicago. But imagine that. If a lot of the moves were smokescreens, we've never been able to clearly know what the front office's moves are. So whether it's Zach LaVine or somebody else, I think we're going to be surprised with who that other player will be if we are able to get a second player. But I'm excited. It's an exciting time, and it starts on Friday. So same thing applies to life as applies to our squad. If there's no struggle, there's no progress. Keep that in mind. Like, let's go Knicks. Keep producing great content. Check me out, Sheer Brilliance, on Twitter, and like and subscribe to this video, Sheer Brilliance Podcast. Listen, love my squad. Love my nation that I'm a part of. Let's go Knicks. Damn them Hawks. But good job getting a hell of a player. It's going to be great battling you guys in the playoffs this year. We here, and we got next. Sheer Brilliance. I'm out. Peace.